all here for Naujawani Book Club. Thank you very much, Kieran. Just Kieran, thank you very much, Amrita. Thanks everyone for joining us and for coming up and for joining our Naujawani Book Club. For anyone who's watching this video back late and who's like, yo, I didn't get a message to say that you were doing this at 5 o'clock and it would be live stream like this. I wasn't ready. I didn't know. Today's just a launch. So the idea was just to actually launch the book, to answer some FAQs live and explain things about the book club for those of you who haven't done it before, and for people who've not belonged to a book club. And certainly even then, what we're doing with the book club is not necessarily what happens with book clubs. So we wanted to kind of have a chance to do that a little bit and then actually do the first reading. So we're going to just read a small number of pages today to launch the book club properly and get us going and get us moving. As I said, unfortunately, the framing, layout and everything is not exactly as I wanted. But as you know, if you're a regular visitor to Naujawani, you don't really care about stuff like that as much as we probably should. It's just more important we get the content going and that many of you start to read this book. Now, I'm not 100% sure if you guys are seeing this back to front. I'm guessing Instagram is definitely seeing this back to front. Is that right? So when you see Saffron Salvation, it's in the wrong way around. If you're seeing this on YouTube, I think you may be seeing it back to front too, because that's the way I'm looking back at it. And I thought it automatically reverses the screen, but clearly it doesn't. No biggie. Let's just get through. Let's just get started. Oh, thanks, Tabla Singh. Yeah, good commenter. Right, it's the right way around, you're saying. So the YouTube will be the right way around, but Instagram, I'm pretty sure, is the wrong way around. So I'm going to start off with just some FAQs. Any questions you've got, start putting them down in the comments. Ask any questions that you want in, make any comments you want about the book club, anything else you want, do that now so that we can start covering it. Thank you very much, Sean. It is back to front on IG. I kind of figured it was on that one. Before we do anything else, I'll just tell you that there is a link. There's a dedicated page to all of this, which hopefully you've all seen on the Naujawani website. It's naujawani.com/Naujawani-book-club. So Naujawani Book Club. Just Google that on the Naujawani site. It'll bring up the page and it gives you a whole bunch of FAQs there. It tells you what this is like. We will be doing weekly updates, and those weekly updates will be more than just somebody saying, oh, this is what we've read up to this week and this is what it's like. That will be some audio, it'll be some video, it'll be some text. And of course, I want some of you guys who are part of the book club to send in some thoughts so we can start sharing those out too. The big thing that we will be doing is a monthly update, and the monthly update will take the form of a video, kind of like what we're doing here. The difference being that once we've actually launched the book club, today's like a live open free-for-all. What we're going to do is have either some form of call, like video calling for everyone who's part of the book club to take part. But the reason to close that off is to give all of you the respect and privacy you need, rather than sharing your thoughts in a live, like kind of, worldwide audience. Not that we hit those kind of numbers, but hopefully you understand and catch my drift. Like, we don't want to just allow it to be a complete free-for-all. Anyone who's been on a Zoom call or a Microsoft Teams call or even Skype calls nowadays know that it's not always the greatest thing to use if you're trying to express yourself and be given respect and space by other people. And so we're going to try and make that as controlled as we can. The one thing I can guarantee you, I'm really sorry about this for those of you who are Zoom fans, but we're definitely not going to be doing a monthly Zoom call. I have lots of bad experience with Zoom, and certainly in the cybersecurity world, Zoom is not really a great format to use for things. That doesn't mean we're going to be stuck on Skype. For those of you who've done stuff on Skype with me in the past through the Sikh Education Council, it could be Microsoft Teams. It could be just something even more bespoke than that. At the end of the day, I'm even considering just whacking open some form of WhatsApp video call or something bespoke just on the Naujawani website. It's totally kind of being driven by you guys as well. So any thoughts you've got on that, drop them in an email to us or go to the Naujawani site, put it in the message form, or even leave it as a comment right now. You leave a comment and say, I'd really prefer the monthly video meetings where we all get to give our thoughts and views on what we've read so far. I'd like that to be in this format. I'm definitely going to be considering what you guys want, what most people want. The only thing I'm saying right now is Zoom is off the table. It's so easy to manipulate Zoom, and for random people who shouldn't be on to get on the call. We had that kind of problem on a university, Sikh studies call that I was doing there before. A couple of comments already coming in, so I'm just going to respond to those as well. Build your own chat app. No, we already got way too many things on the to-do list, and I can't code to save my life. So a WhatsApp chat, a private chat app wouldn't work. A WhatsApp video call, Jay, saying, yeah, we could definitely do a WhatsApp video call. We may do a combination of things. It might be like a Microsoft Teams call, and then also a Skype call for people who want to do that, and then also a WhatsApp video call. So we give loads of people opportunities to jump into whichever one they want. Probably jumping ahead, I should talk a little bit more about the idea of the talk about the idea of the book club and what's kind of involved. So Untitled Chapter, thank you very much for your question. What points should we be looking out for, like characters, themes, context, etc.? All of that and everything else. Look out for characters, look out for where the plot is taking you, look out for historical references, look out for things that reach out to you on an emotional level, things that you want to share, things you don't want to share, whichever way you want to do it. Look out for as many things as you possibly can. I would say one of the key things as you're reading through the book for discussion in our setting in the book club, a really good thing would be to just follow the narrative as much as you can. We're not here to sit and start, kind of judging the author for their writing ability. That's not what this is about. This is about the ideas that are being presented in the book and how they make us feel and what kind of notions it raises up in our mind. So hence why I'm saying all of those things. But if you wanted to focus on just one, look at the narrative that's being told and try to look for the bits that stand out, that speak to you. It doesn't have to be something that speaks to you in your personal life. It doesn't have to be something that really, hits home because it parallels or mirrors your own experience. It could be the opposite. It could be something that's so far removed from anything you've ever experienced, and that spoke to you for that reason. So look out for things like that are happening to the protagonist, the main characters, and even some of the side characters. So good question, and hopefully that's kind of answered it some way. Sean, Teams is good with me, but not fussed. Yeah, Pachungi, yeah, you were the university person. We did have royalty joining us. Thank you everyone for joining. Wow, so many people joining up. So we've got 16 people on the Instagram, and on YouTube Live we've got 6 people. Wow, that's low. That's high actually by naujawani standards. 6 is good, and 5 likes. That's even better. Let's see, we've got a question there. Hey man, love your videos. Are you planning on ever cover by Jetta Siri Guru Katha? Niti Singh published an excellent English translation. Okay, yeah, I don't really want to cover sideline stuff here today, but there's always book suggestions. If you want to drop them to us, go to the naujawani.com website, go to the message form and suggest a book that you want us to cover. In cover to cover series, we tend not to go for really old Puratan texts, generally because introducing those is a difficult thing. Now, what you're referring to here is specifically someone's interpretation of it, so we can do that, and that's something I'll look into, so thanks for the heads up there. Is the book club only going to be fiction, or will we read non-fiction too? We will be doing both at some point. The first thing we want to concentrate on is reading fiction, because it's one of the things that we tend not to do a lot as a community, certainly not where we talk about it much. There's a huge movement of people in film and animation, even long form music videos. But when it comes to writing, we don't really get a huge amount of love for people who work in the arts. Poetry and spoken word, rightly so, have been given a lot of prominence in recent years. I myself have been wholeheartedly involved in that movement too, to try and promote spoken word and poetry. But fiction is really getting left behind. And so that's why we really wanted to start off with fiction. And boy, what a book have we started with. I should have got the first edition actually off my bookcase just to compare it like for like. In fact, I'll do that right now. Sorry, I'm just going off video and the damn phone is dropping as we speak. Someone needs to get better equipment at naujawani. That's me. Here's the 2 books side by side. So let's just take a look. This is the first edition. This is the one that came out in 1999. Look at the length and the depth. Saffron Salvation. This book really did speak to me at a time in my life when I was still a teenager. So it really stood out, which is why I did it in a cover to cover, and then found out that the author was bringing out a 3rd edition. I didn't even know there was a 2nd edition. So the fact that there was a 2nd edition and now this 3rd edition has come out is really cool. It looks like it's really lengthy, but it is more than like it's a I find quite an easy read in that sense. There's books that are this thick and this kind of amount of text that will take you really long to read, whereas this, some of you will start to get through very, very quick. Any other questions you've got? Now's a good time, like I said, to answer them. There was a couple I've had by email that I wanted to cover. They are things that I've added to the FAQ list on the Naujawani book club page on the Naujawani site. First one was, sorry, I just got to find it. Where can I buy the book? So if there's still people watching who don't have a copy of the book, you can buy it from NSYF, National Sikh Youth Federation, at their website, nsyf.org.uk. You can also buy it from the British Organisation of Sikh Students, BOSS UK, and you can link to them through the official Saffron Salvation page on Instagram and whatnot. Go to their official shop. You'll be able to pick up a copy of this. There's also a free copy of this book for anyone who becomes a Naujawani member, but don't look into that too much because the membership package is still a little bit whack because I'm really, really lazy. I'm not actually lazy. That's just what apparently people say on YouTube. I'm actually just flat out of my feet and haven't done the work I should have done on the Naujawani membership package. So that was question one. Question two was, what does the book club cost? There must be a cost involved. Obviously, you've got to buy a copy of the book. And the book is quite inexpensive. It's like, you know, £5.95, I think it is. So it's £6, 6 UK pounds for anyone watching from a foreign territory. That's, you know, not a huge amount of money. But at this time, that might be difficult for some people. I'd suggest maybe looking at your local Gurdwara. Maybe they'll have a copy where you could borrow it. Or maybe just, you know, going twos with other members of your families and actually buying a copy of the book together, 2-3 of you in one house, maybe siblings or a parent and a child, and reading it. I don't think £6 is a huge amount to spend. You know, I spent like 4 times that amount at lunch today. Yeah, that's probably saying too much about how much money I spend all over the shop. Yeah, so those were the 2 questions I wanted to answer on that front. The rest goes with everything else is just in regards to the book itself, how we're going to cover this. So over the next week, I'm going to start putting down the different page numbers that ideally you read up to each week. So we're going to put that down on a weekly basis. But actually, you could just catch up like in the 3rd week and do a whole ton of reading together in one sitting. And then when we come to the end of the month book club meeting, you'll have read everything we're going to discuss when we all discuss together. So the weekly updates will go out by email and they'll also be on the Naujawani site. But those will be predominantly from ourselves. Any of you want to contribute, just drop us a message, leave a small piece of text about what you're thinking of what you've read that week. If you wanted to do an audio video piece, you know, just contact us through there and we'll work out how to get that from you and make it part of our weekly update as well. But it's mainly those monthly meetings that are already up on the dates. So we've put up that the next date is going to be the 27th of December. That's when we will go through a whole chunk of the book that we've read. The meeting after that will be the 31st of January. So as you can see, there's a pattern forming. It's always going to be the last Sunday of the month. Thanks very much. 17 people still logged in and tuned in. Loads and loads of people have come online, seen what we're doing and logged up again, which is, I guess, well, the way social media works. It's another reason we wanted to launch the book club. It's something I've wanted to do for 15 years, believe it or not. Naujawani is really old. I mean, really, really old. It's 14 years old. Our first YouTube video went out in 2006, would you believe? So we were incorporated as a company back then in 2006. But the year before that, I was volunteering at a radio station called Untitled Radio. A lot of my ideas for what we do at Naujawani came from there. And one of the things that we had tried to do there in one of our radio programs was to put together a book club where people would read. We do a live radio show, have callers come on and talk about the books we were reading. And it just never took off. And back then, I used to think it was going to be really hard to connect people. That's an era before, you know, YouTube in 2004-05 is practically non-existent. And everything else we have today, Instagram didn't exist then. Facebook was big and quite huge, but not the behemoth it's turned into. Unfortunately, social media has made zombies of so many of us. It's just made it harder and harder over the years for me to keep people connecting. But the fact so many of you have shown love for this book club, have signed up to the updates and wanted to do it, makes me really happy. And I'm sure it makes all of you happy to know you're not alone. Like I said, 7 people are watching this consistently on YouTube right now, and there's 17 of you watching this on Instagram. I can tell you those who signed up on the website for the weekly updates and the monthly updates by email, in our little email form, there's over 55 of you as we speak. So there's a lot of people who are going to be reading this book and going through the material that's there. So we're not alone. There's a lot of people who want to do this. And I'm now rabbiting on way too much. So it's time for us to kick off and actually do the live reading. If there's any other questions, now's your last chance. I'm looking around. There's no comments coming back or anything else. Sean, thanks very much. Yeah, better late than never. As you know, that should be my motto in life anyway. Everything always happens late. Just one little last aside. Before you ever start anything from a Sikh pak, you should do an ardas. And that's something that we've done actually about half an hour ago at home here. So we did a full ardas for the book club. And if you want to listen back to it, it'll be on the Naujawani book club page on the Naujawani site tomorrow. If any of you felt like you wanted to be part of that ardas and stand in it, you can listen back to it and do it. It's nothing huge or special. I mean, it's really special to me, but a lot of people might not really consider it too much. But I just wanted to throw that out there. It's just going to be the audio file. You'll go to the site, press play, and it's the ardas. You get to hear my daughter doing the jagari with me at the end if you kind of wanted to hear what a 6-year-old sounds like being introduced to Sikhi, let's say. So without further ado, we're going to do some reading of Saffron Salvation. Today, what we're actually going to do is read just the, I wanted to do the acknowledgements and the prologue, and then actually get into just reading the first couple of pages, the first chapter and whatnot, to take us forward. Those of you who've got a copy of the book will hopefully be reading along with us at home and wherever else you are as you're watching, because otherwise basically you're going to be staring at me on a screen looking down at a book as I speak. So yeah, just giving you that heads up now. If you've just tuned into the Instagram, you're like, okay, I'm going to just be staring at his face. Yeah, just log off now. It's not going to be worth it. Also, just random aside, last random aside, if you hear me coughing, I haven't got COVID. I've picked up some sort of allergy to dairy, would you believe? That's the world's worst thing that could ever possibly happen to a Sardar who eats kara prashad for fun every day. Hopefully it's a temporary intolerance. I've had it once before, but the cough kicks off, so I've been out without dairy for like 5 days now. Hopefully we'll get better. Okay, so the dedication, which is the acknowledgements in this book that come from the author, Simarjit Kaur, who is an absolutely wonderful woman, one of those eccentric characters you meet, which is why she's an author and a fiction writer in the first place. One of those unsung heroes that you never hear about in the world, particularly in the Sikh world, who just lived her life and dedicated her life to doing the best things she could and doing as much as she could. And so, you know, I dedicate the launch of this book club, not only, you know, because we're doing the first book, but I dedicate the launch of this book club to her and to all the writers that she has inspired, of which I consider myself one. So Simarjit, whenever you watch this video back, big up to you, respect to you for the rest of your life. Wow, I'm coming out with all the 90s slang today. I said twos earlier, and now I just said big up and respect. Let's read the dedication from Simarjit Kaur. For my father, Joginder Singh, and my mother, Harbhajan Kaur, fearless, spiritual warriors all their lives, activists with a big heart for seva, undying love of the Guru, and big dreams for their nation. For all our Sikh ancestors, without whose sacrifices we would not be here, for giving us the chance in this life to do the right thing. I don't know how much you're telling. I'm choking up reading that. Word to the wise for all of you youngers who are watching this right now, watching it back or watching it live. Always dedicate stuff to your parents, to the Guru, and to the Sikh ancestors, because that's what it's all about. Ultimately, you're here because of your parents. And I think a lot of people nowadays try to be really cool by bashing our parents, bashing the elders. I've got a lot of peers in the Sikh Panth and in like activist and organizer circles who always do that. We shouldn't be listening to the elders, shouldn't be doing this, that, and the other. They're right to a certain extent. You need to live your own life. You need to be, the young need to lead the way and all that kind of stuff. But if you go too far by disrespecting and disregarding your elders and where you came from, your parents, you're cutting off the roots to who you actually are. And so, you know, big up. Wow, I said it twice. My ultimate respect goes out to Joginder Singh and Harbhajan Kaur, parents of Simarjit Kaur, to whom she dedicated this book. Read the prologue. So we're going to kick off with that now. In Amritsar is one of the holiest places on earth. Great Sufi, Hindu, Muslim, Buddhist, Christian, Jain, and Sikh saints walk the marble of the holiest place. Millions of devout pilgrims fall to their knees before the Golden Temple. In Amritsar, once the Golden Temple rose high, open to all sides to the world from every direction. A God who is everywhere and embraces everyone. A love that is forever. In Amritsar once stood serene sacred waters of Amrit, holy waters of healing, of blessings eternal. Amritsar was the place where freedom fighters standing against oppression gathered through the ages. Anyone could visit this free spirit in Amritsar. The great noble prophet of the Sikhs, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, wrote the divine words for the Guru Granth Sahib, the holiest guide, holiest Guru of the Sikhs there. The foundations of the Golden Temple were blessed by the honored Sufi saint Mian Mir hundreds of years ago. The history of the Sikhs is integral to Amritsar. It is their heart, their soul. Through the Mughal Islamic Inquisition, Sikh pilgrims gathered and prayed in secret, never abandoning their beloved Amritsar, even if it meant death. Freedom fighters gathered in Amritsar throughout the Afghan persecutions, throughout the British persecutions. Nehru, first Prime Minister of India, and Mohandas Gandhi said that the Sikhs and Amritsar were the last bastion of democracy. Amritsar was a sovereign place of its own. It would always be that. The Akal Takht stands tall, an insignia of freedom from persecution. News reached Guru Har Gobind Sahib that his father, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, the noble, was tortured to death for his pacifist, humanitarian, spiritual movement against the Mughal Empire. Guru Har Gobind Sahib waged war on the Mughal tyrants that had destroyed a peace movement with oppression. He then built the Akal Takht, fortress from oppression, bows to none. Amritsar is a country of its own. Sovereign from inception and within is the timeless throne of God, the eternal Akal Takht. Bowing before no empire, no matter how often the boundaries, lines, fences, borders changed. No matter how the names and disguises of the tyrants change, even as they manage to secure places on so-called international security councils. The Akal Takht is the last sign of freedom. The warrior saint people, the Sikhs, are people of their own. On 4th June, the anniversary of Guru Arjan Dev Ji's martyrdom, Amritsar is brimming with pilgrims. Thousands upon thousands of pilgrims gather from all corners of the Punjab and the world. The burning heat, the blistering sun of June doesn't deter their devotion. The greatest, sweetest son of Punjab came forward. Their noble prophet, who led a pacifist, humanitarian, and spiritual revolution, was tortured to death unforgivably. His sacrifice was eternal. Even if it is burning and hot, as it is always, is in June, they try and remind themselves in the uncomfortable heat as they wipe the sweat from their faces that their beloved prophet was burned to death, tortured in the most cruel, inhuman way. This heat, burning their naked feet, is nothing. They brave the hot plains of Punjab and the burning marble of Amritsar to pay homage to their beloved love. Some come not wearing shoes, even on the buses, even as their feet burn on the sands of Punjab in June. On the 4th of June, 1984, the destiny and lives of the Sikhs in the world was to change forever. Those Sikhs in the Akal Takht, the immortal throne of justice, used their last breath to save the holy world of the Sikhs. Those trapped all around the world wanted to rush to save their beloved Amritsar as the Indian army invaded and bombed Amritsar. That's the prologue. Glad we've still got viewers with us, 20 people across all of it. Very quickly, some comments going on still about the other book suggestions from cover to cover. That's good because I haven't got time to deal with any more questions. We want to get on with the reading because you're all busy people and you all want to kind of get going. Just looking at my clock, it's 5:30. We're going to read now the start of the book, starting on page 7. We're going to read right up until the end of page 13. Now, if you want to read this alone, feel free. If my voice grates you or you don't like it, perfectly fine. Read alone. This isn't going to be a regular thing where I'm doing a reading and a whole audiobook recording of the book. I just thought it was a nice way to launch the book club and do a live reading if we can. What we might do as we go on actually each month is have some of you who are parts of the book club to actually do some of the readings as well, certain passages, particularly if it's something you feel strongly about that stood out to you that you want to share with everyone. So that might be a nice idea. It's just come to me now. Okay, cool. I'm going to try and do the best I can with the reading. Those of you reading along, hopefully I could do it justice. So we're on chapter 1. I salute immortal God. London, April 1994. I get up at 6 a.m., wash my face quickly, catch the bus, ignoring the tramps and commuters, and then I sit amongst the shoes. All sorts of shoes come, pretty, strappy sandals with fancy, thin heels, the sort that make you wonder how women walk in them. Shoes that are smelly and worn. My cheeks are adorned by many shoes briefly before I rearrange them. Shoes that are from busy people and those who are desperate. Some are flung at me. Some are placed politely at nose level on the boards. Some are downright dirty, and I wonder how people can wear their shoes like this. Shoes from the arrogant, from the humble, and each shoe I wipe with my scarf. I try not to think of him as I bow down towards the shoes. It is one wipe with the scarf, and then I put them back. My scarf gets dirty by the second. The owners of the shoes do not see who they have thrown their shoes at, nor do they care. They are too busy seeking something else. He has left me amongst the shoes. I weep silently. Then I know the shoes, the feet of the people whose shoes I wipe. Then I know the shoes, the feet of the people whose shoes I wipe, aren't those of the people I see. Once an arrogant woman threw her shoes off at me, and I was tempted to spit on her shoes instead. I remind myself that they aren't shoes that are dirty or need a clean. I put each to my forehead. I cry silently, sometimes lost in the congregation, lost amongst their shoes, for I deserve no high position in life, but sometimes my tears don't stop. I always wonder if he will leave his shoes here. As I put a shoe to my forehead, a tear slips on the shoe, and I quickly wipe it away, trying not to think of him. For each shoe of the pilgrims I wipe, I know I can forget him and help him. London, April 1984. My father put me on the aeroplane. He was on a night shift and gave me a lift in the dull rain that had sucked up the sky and our entire neighborhood with it. I didn't understand why he felt the need. He was throwing me into the lion's den anyway. I was perfectly capable of taking the underground train, I grumbled. He was intent on being silent and not responding. Instead, he kept whispering to God, whispers of prayers running through like a silent stream slipping away. Only his silver beard flickering showed he was still alive. Only the cars gushing past on the cold motorway reminded me that I was still alive. He's in a mood. I was the one who should be in a mood, being sent thousands of miles away to meet a perfect stranger. All he said after his chance, as if he were reading the weather forecast at the airport, was to remind me in his wink, handing me a packet of mints. It takes 8.4 million lives, Sean. I turned around, not caring about philosophy and not caring for the packet of mints. It's not like the mints would save me from a fate worse than death, going to a fly-infested country to marry a perfect stranger. Your aunt will pick you up from the airport, he shouted reassuringly. I was the perfect daughter, I reminded myself. No daughter born and brought up in England would have done what I was about to do. But it didn't make me feel any better. How good a daughter I was. I hated my family. I hated the thought of going to India. And now I hated the idea of going to this meeting. I thought I was going to throw up. I decided to open the mints and start eating them. I wished later I hadn't been fed up with my father, but by then it was too late. Once. Just once, if I hadn't been too busy with doing the right thing, I should have asked him about the 8.4 million lives. It was a spiritual truth we lived by. I realized later that you didn't ask the right questions to understand the spiritual truths, not until it was too late. Sprays of golden ransiki dust shot at the clouds. I couldn't look up far as spats of dirt cut across my face. It was my welcome to his bin. His village told me how I wasn't meant to be with him. Showers of ransiki landed on my shoulders and wound into my nose before any of the dancing dolls around me could kick it back. Sheaves bowed in the distance to the seduction of the dolki drum. The football match of revenge between sky and dancers continued. Mortals were spat out in the land of the gods as frenzied dolls, warriors, saints, and the not-so-saintly danced together. I had to move with the dancing dolls and move fast, or I'd be under them. It was Baisakhi, the birth of the Sikhs, party time for the farmers. I tried to find peaceful, steady ground after the bus ride, but there was nothing but roller coasters of shoulders that snaked around, capturing everyone. Crowds were dangerous, my aunt warned. Girls were kidnapped in crowds. A girl must always hold on to someone, especially in a festival. No matter how holy the occasion, the bandits were always about. I could hear it all. Aunt had disappeared, and I just didn't have the energy to care about it. I wanted to enjoy the few moments of happiness before the pathetic meeting. I had never seen Baisakhi in Punjab before. Some wore bright turbans, whilst others were naked in short hair. The farm hands had almost finished their chores. Baisakhi had begun. I was pushed against the Ludhiana Amritsar bus only 3 hours before. Ransiki was supposed to be near. My mind fizzed in dusty anger. I hopped on one foot, trying to get a foothold. Passengers behind me threatened to crush me to death. My foot could barely stay on the step of the bus that began moving of its own will. It was from then that I grew to dislike the stranger. I was forced to Ransiki because of him. There was a mad scramble of voices. Amritsar, Jalandhar, Phagwara, wheezing and droning, that theirs was the bus for us. Faces creased and eyes focused, they used their whistles. Their hands waved you forward. Intent, you get on their bus, alone with the stench of urine, knocking you blind as you tried to get near the right bus. The Phagwara bus was coercively attractive. Phagwara, until my mind jiggled. No, Amritsar, get out of my way, you twit, I thought silently, refusing to listen to the hypnotic Phagwara wheezer. Hurry, sister! I'm not your bloody sister, I wanted to say, but the rude push-up was needed as someone behind me pushed at my bottom. The bus had started moving. Amritsar, Amritsar, drowned in the dismal bus conductor's song, and the legs and arms fighting against my bottom. Jump, Sharan, jump! Now a whole load of passengers joined in. Jump, Sharan! I was soon clammed up amongst the bodies who struggled for me as we stood on the steps of the moving bus. I was so close to meeting the stranger. I hated him at that moment for helping me become a spectacle on the Punjab Roadways bus heading to Amritsar. This is normal, quite normal. I breathed out the leftover whiffs of urine, jumping in my nose, pulling my scarf up again, trying to remember I had never had to come back here. All very normal. Hurry up, Sharan, my aunt hollered, hitting a scrawny man behind her as I pushed past the man barely clinging onto the outside of the bus. Hands grabbed my shoulders and pulled me up as feet hit into my heels from behind, and someone's hand pushed my back forward. The bus rushed forward, swallowing everything. We skeltered viciously around crushed cars and graveyards of giant trucks. The hips and bottoms of the passengers grew into one flying mess. Gold tinsel ropes with black blood and cut-out prayers, as well as the doe eyes of a Bombay actress, poked through the smashed windscreen that had been religiously tied by the truckers. This was all the funeral attire that remained. The bus's horn boomed and never stopped booming, reminding everyone that it ruled the GT road. I tried not to keep falling on top of the man next to me, wondering where the driver was and if everyone was okay. Oh, they all end up like that, said the man next to me, second-guessing my thoughts. The truck driver will be dead or in jail, all on drugs, you know. He carried on with his fatal commentary, intent on putting his elbow to my hip. It didn't matter how much I huffed, gave dirty looks, or didn't respond to his analytical commentary, he didn't budge. His elbow orgy with my hip carried on, and I couldn't move away. I knew then I was in India. Beloved home of my father and mother, beloved home of my ancestors. But no bloody space. Just bodies, arms, legs, shit, dust and scooter rickshaws everywhere. Life is cheap here, the lewd philosopher pushed on as I turned my head away from him. Moving my head was all I had of myself left in a country that swallowed you up in seconds. My aunt was pushing back 3 passengers hanging from the rails who kept swinging her way. I just had the elbow of the pervert next to me to contend with. Why the hell couldn't he come and see us? Isn't it traditional that the boys' side come and see us? I shouted to my aunt as soon as she'd sidled nearer to me. She just smiled smugly, back still wrestling with stopping her knees being knocked by the metal seats ahead of her. She didn't care to answer me. We were on the bus that would get us to Ranchikki, and that was progress in her eyes. My aunt, who had pushed 2 people onto one seat, nabbed a couple with her elbow, fought with a scrawny man, and joyously stomped on several feet, simply refused to answer me. She was a force to be reckoned with on the Punjab Roadways bus. She had many advantages, like her being fat and better dressed, with no remorse in her take-no-prisoners attitude. Every pothole disheveled us from our seats. Organs we'd never felt before let us know they existed. I looked through the dirt-encrusted windows and wondered if I could see him. I don't want to bloody well get married, my head spitted with every bump of the bus. I hoped my vehement telepathy reached him. Just 3 hours to go, shouted Auntie, spinning a shiny mile through her maroon lipstick, and I knew what my meditation for 3 hours was going to be. I don't intend to marry you, I fumed at the metal bars. I could barely grasp. I will not marry you, my head drummed to siren songs and hymns rattling through the tin can bus. God's praises, sirens of Bombay, nothing got in the way of the Punjab Roadways bus horn. No way. No marriage, no bloody arranged marriage. I tried to close my eyes and think of what my mother and father had said. I had to find the true love of my life. They'd never be good parents unless they forced me to think about these things before it was too late. They could never die peacefully. They had said it again and again. There was nothing but shame in not having a happily married, settled life. I know they meant well. A daughter had her duties. I had had this drummed into me for years and years, but I couldn't understand how saying no to a few men in Birmingham and Huddersfield could put me on a bus in a dirty, mad country going to meet one of the most eligible bachelors of northern Punjab. I mean, it wasn't as if I'd said no to 100 men. It wasn't like I was saying no to marriage forever. My parents were told that I was going off the rails. I simply had to be brought before more eligible bachelor material and say yes, quickly, before I ran out of time. I won't go. I came here for a holiday. Okay, Sharon, but you know, he's a nice guy. One of the most sought after bachelors, you know. I'm English. Auntie, we're English. How can I end up with a guy from Punjab? They all speak in weird accents here. I closed my eyes, intent on removing everything that they'd brainwashed me with. Aunts, uncles, grannies, but the one thing I couldn't remove was the hope of salvation. Anyway, it smells here, Auntie. It smells rotten. Auntie looked away, uninterested, as if her olfactory senses were totally immune, but I could tell that she too had a problem with the country. He'll come with you to England. You're marrying him if you like him, not the whole damn country. And that was the deal. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, Sharon, that's it. Samosa, tea, and then we just leave, okay? I thought to myself that I didn't want to be alone for the rest of my life, but the thought of marrying a perfect stranger seemed too repugnant. Bachelors don't grow on trees, my aunt had argued the night before. I didn't care if they did. I wouldn't go looking on any trees for them. I looked down at my suit. I had chosen a dull, plain brown suit that made me look as if I had malaria. I was quite content to present myself before the eligible bachelor of Amritsar in the brown suit. You know, people from north of the rivers, they are quite fast, sharp, the villagers gossiped in my aunt's bend. Apparently, I was sandwiched in the middle of the rivers. I didn't know if it meant that where my people came from, they were less stupid or not. Anyway, I pointed out to my aunt I was from Southall Hounslow border, and it was Dad and she who came from the middle of these rivers. We only have one river in London, the Thames. And it doesn't matter, does it, which side you're from? She looked away from me, not answering. I discovered that it was a big deal for people to marry daughters beyond their region. The Majha, Malwa, and Doaba were sandwiched between the three rivers left in the shell of Punjab after partition. Villagers from each side of the rivers had resolute stories about each other, proven scientific facts about the differences between them. The legendary Malwai Pabi, who turned out to be a disastrous sister-in-law. The legendary sharp people of Majha. He, the one eligible bachelor, the stranger, was an Amritsariya from Majha. They were more clever than us, and it seemed us Dwabians were dimmer. They've rebuilt this bit of the road, shouted one zombie passenger across into space. I am not going to marry you, the song rang, and it felt really appropriate. I won't, I vowed to myself. The song was a sign. But the singer had been asked to marry the guy she was saying no to. I hadn't even passed the arranged marriage test. No one had asked for my hand in marriage. The heat spiked us, melting us second by second. Wide-eyed and rubbery-tongued, we clenched thighs and buttocks, trying not to fall upon each other as the bus hurtled forward. The lewd man next to me sat even wider, legs splayed, taking advantage of every minute to fall into my hips with every turn of the bus. I tried to elbow him back from the side of my face. I felt his slimy smile cut through me and my perspiring. I had to blink the noise and heat out, and this seemed to turn him on further. He had a veterinary science degree and was one semester from graduating. The stranger bachelor. I knew he was tall. Then I decided I couldn't care less whether he was tall or a dwarf. I wasn't going to marry anyone from India. I was going to get out of the heat and flies and dust and all the people staring at you wherever you went. Some tin can Mauritius puffed escaping the bus. Not so fortunate crushed tin cans lay strewn around the GT road. 1 second too late and the giant bus might have joined the piling graveyard. I knew he was from a good family, and this seemed to be enough to satisfy my dad. The fact that he was a nice boy seemed to give a great deal of delight to my mother too, even though she'd never met him. That's us with our first reading. That takes us up to the end of page 13 and the beginning of chapter 2, from where I hope you all have lots of fun reading forwards. As I said, at some point tomorrow, you'll go over to the Naujawani book club page on the Naujawani site, and you'll see the next set of pages you need to read up to over the course of the next coming week, in the next 7 days, and how after that, what you'll be reading before our next one and before our next one, and so on and so on. I hope you all enjoyed the first part of that reading. Forgive me for any of the mistakes I made. There was quite a few pronunciation mistakes I made. I just said Mauritius at the end where it actually says Marutis. So yeah, pardon that. It's one of the reasons we're not going to do live readings all the time and turn this into an audio book. If anyone has any final comments or questions or thoughts, now's the time. We had a consistent 20 of you throughout the entirety of that, which bodes well going forward for the book club. As I said, there'll be people from different territories joining us, so they won't always be coming on live. We'll try and set different time slots for the different live meetings that we have over the different modes of communication, so that people from different areas can join in, or those of you who are busy in evenings and busy late evening like now and whatnot, that you get the chance to jump on and do take part in the book club. A lot already to discuss in those first few pages. For any of you who started reading the book now just with us live, and any of you watching the video back who didn't even know we were doing this book club, from what you've just heard me read, don't start judging the entire book. In the same way we don't judge a book by its cover, We need to read a book throughout its entirety for us to appreciate and understand what is actually being said and what the book's message really is. We did have on our FAQ on the website, am I committed to finishing reading the book? Our response was, we'd hope so, but life does get in the way of our best intentions. If you have to drop out from continuing to read for whatever reason, there's no judgment here. That's just talking about our book club. But those of you who feel at any point that you can't carry on with us as we're reading live and going through this, week by week, month by month, then by all means, just put the book to one side. Make sure you do finish it at some point. The whole purpose of fiction is to challenge our notions. It's to it's to instigate discussion and debate and thought provocation. And that's really what we want to get out of this book club. And certainly there'll be no holds barred on that front. If you read stuff you don't like, for example, the notion that the Wahabi are dimmer than everyone else is obviously something I don't appreciate, being a Wahabi myself. But it's, all part of the fun and games of fiction and something for us to discuss. Those of you who are Majils who will be reading the book will be lapping up the fact that you're taller and brighter and sharper. Less said about them always, the better, eh? Okay, so with that, I'm going to call it time. Thank you very much for joining us. And as I said, if you sign up to receive email updates on the Naujawani website book club page, you'll be kept abreast of all of the latest updates and all the things we'll be doing in regards to how many pages to read up to and whatnot each week, and also the different modes of communication we'll be having our book club meeting with. Until, wow, I didn't cough out all throughout the reading, but I'm now having a coughing fit. Throughout all of the, until December 27th now, when we have our next big live meeting. Every week, hopefully, you'll be able to watch something, read something, listen to something about what we've been reading that week on a Sunday. So just check back on the Naujawani book club page. And then, of course, I'll see you on 27th December. There's a lot going on. I've got that date wrong. 27th December isn't the next one, is it? That can't be right. Why have I said 27th December? There's got to be another date in November, surely. 29th November, my bad. 29th November. So those of you in the UK will still be in lockdown at that point. So there won't be a live meeting then. But hopefully by the time we hit 27th December, we will be in live meeting territory. There may be the option for some of you to come in person and be part of the book club if we possibly can. Those of you interested, that will be in the Southall area. But again, it's all lockdown, COVID dependent. Thanks very much. Any comments, thoughts, whatever, drop us an email at the Naujawani site. I'm just going to give you that address again. naujawani.com/Naujawani-book-club. That's the page for the book club on the Naujawani site. All of our information will be going up there and you can check it all out. Thank you very much for your time and for joining the Naujawani book club. Hope to speak to you all very, very soon. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you look after each other and look after yourselves, obviously, at this time as well. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki